so the recording is on now. All right, welcome to our site supervisor training, our overview for the supervisors. Here we go. So I wanted to do introductions since it's just Heidi. I think we can still do an introduction though.
We could probably skip that. I think, we all know what Heidi's working on.
Yes.
So we know what Heidi's working on at Grandview. Today I just wanted to talk about some of the goals of the VISTA projects, find out what the VISTA's, more about VISTA and what they do, and then expectations of supervisors, and then just our levels of resources. To start it out, we have Jancy who works with the state office. She's going to speak a little bit so that we have her. So Jancy, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I would love to. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I apologize. I don't have video. My computer, my laptop's on a docking station. And so when I open it, it actually shuts down. So sorry, you don't get to see me. So I'm Nancy LaFollette. I work with the Corporation for National and Community Service. So we're the federal agency, kind of the top of that chart, that oversees our CNCS family, or our National Service family. And I specifically work in our state office in Iowa. We're located in Des Moines in the federal building downtown. And my portfolio consists of AmeriCorps VISTA, and as well as our Senior Corps program. So that's who I am. Katie, did you want me to kind of explain this chart a little bit?
You can if you want.
Okay. So Heidi, are you familiar with CNCS and VISTA and AmeriCorps and kind of our family?
Yes.
Okay. So have you served before as a site supervisor?
I have not for a VISTA.
But you
we have the AmeriCorps, the ICAP program here.
Great. So you've heard of CNCS before, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Corporation for National and Community Service, we do AmeriCorps, Senior Corps, Social Innovation Fund, as well as Volunteer Generation Fund, and a few other little fun things in there as well. Our VISTA program falls under the AmeriCorps umbrella. We have 3 AmeriCorps programs, AmeriCorps NCCC, which is the National Civilian Community Corps, VISTA, which is where we sit, and then the state and national grants, which is where the ICAP program sits, under those realms. So in VISTA, for the state of Iowa, we get a pocket of state funding that we administer. So it's just for the state of Iowa. That's what it means. It's nice and confusing. We talk about the state office, but we don't work for the state. We work for the federal government. So, so we work then with the sponsoring organizations, which is Emily and Katie. And then they kind of, they're an intermediary model. And so what that means is they have multiple sites across the state. And they then work with programs like you at Grandview to be able to then put members into the community. So this kind of flow chart on the right-hand side is the intermediary, is Iowa Campus Compact. The VISTA sub-sites are you, and you're the sub-site supervisor or just the site supervisor, and then the VISTA members kind of fall under that. So that's how that works a little bit, and just kind of a flow of our family. So Senior Corps also falls on us, and we have foster grandparents, senior companions, and RSVP. And NCCC, if you're ever interested in bringing a group of folks in, you can also write to NCCC for programs as well if you have big service projects that are going on. So they get deployed out. They don't serve one community. They actually serve a 10-state region. So it's definitely something to look into if you have like a big. They do like trail cleanups, park builds. They can help with VITA, different things like that. So it's an interesting program as well. So that gives a really quick, in a nutshell, overview of this entire big flow chart. So what is VISTA? So Heidi, do you know what VISTA stands for?
I actually don't think I do.
Okay. So VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to America. So that is, VISTA actually does have an acronym to it. And we are a poverty program. So VISTA is specifically poverty related. And we've been around for about 50 years. We actually in 2015 celebrated our 50th anniversary. We were originally created under Johnson's War on Poverty back in the 60s. And so VISTA has a strong history of service. The key, kind of the big differences between a full-time staff person or an intern or a volunteer, those are always a unique kind of difference. People get a little confused about where a VISTA member kind of fits in their organization. And really, they are different. They're a national service member, so that means a lot of unique things. But they really do have a different motivation for serving with our communities. Obviously, 12-month full-time position that they're getting paid very little to do. So their motivation to be there really isn't for the pay, it's more for the experience. Sometimes oh, hi Ashley, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm sorry I had technical difficulties.
Glad you could join us.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Hi Ashley, it's Jancy. Sorry I don't have video, but
No, that's okay.
you can hear me okay?
Yep.
So we're just kind of talking about the differences between a VISTA member and kind of your regular staff person, people or interns or your other volunteers. In addition to motivation, sometimes our VISTA members have a greater need for support and coaching. As you guys work with them, a lot of times this might be their first experience in an office setting, which can be challenging. They sometimes need a little bit more direction or a little bit more support than a person who's coming in to be an intern or a full paid position or just a volunteer who's just there for a couple hours. So again, this is a full-time commitment for them, so that additional support sometimes is needed. Obviously, the compensation is different. They, again, are not getting paid full-time compensation. They're not a volunteer, so they're kind of in this in-between kind of special place. So that's something to think about, as well as opportunities for growth. So this is an opportunity for not only you guys to have someone to come in and assist you and to really build out the capacity of your organization and be able to make an impact and make a difference in the community that they're serving. But this is also an opportunity for growth for them. And so that's something to think about when you're working with your VISTA members, is to be able to talk to them about really what they want out of this experience and how they want to move forward. So they do serve 365 days. It is a commitment to national service, so it's not considered paid employment. Our members have to be at least 18 years of age. They have to be a U.S. citizen, national or legal permanent resident, and they do go through a criminal history check. Initially, it's a National Sex Offender Public Registry website check that I do, and then within their first couple weeks of service, they need to go get fingerprinted, and we run those fingerprint checks at the DC level. So those are just some eligibility requirements, basic eligibility requirements for our program. So any questions or anything to add, Katie or Emily?
Jancy, I have a quick question. Here at the university, I feel like we're kind of stuck in this redundancy of doing another background check once they get here. Do you have any suggestions on how I might be able to, I don't know, share with them that they've already been through extensive background checks and that we don't need to conduct another one? Or do you have other sites who have that same experience?
We don't, I'll be honest.
Okay.
Right, no one has told me that. How's that? We can provide a letter that says, once they clear the background check, that says they've cleared it. We can't provide, obviously, what the results of the check are, but I can send, there's like a form letter that we can send out to folks that says, hey, they went through the check, this is the check that they went through and they cleared it. Of course, it does take a little bit of time to get those checks back because they are a fingerprint check.
Right.
But we can provide that. I don't know if that will meet the criteria for your university, Ashley, but it is an option that's available.
Okay, I might take you up on that for sure, because I end up feeling really bad because I have them fill out all this paperwork for VISTA, and then I'm like, surprise, you have to go through another background check and a driver's check, and I want to eliminate the hoops that they have to jump through.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and if that would be up to your organization, your university, college, to make that decision if that's something they want to do.
Okay.
We can't obviously share the results, but we can verify that they went through those. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anything to add, Katie, Emily?
Not for this section, but I do have your slides for rules and regulation if you wanted to talk about what a VISTA is not.
Yes. So what a VISTA is and what a VISTA is not. So for our rules and regulations, our VISTA do focus on capacity building and poverty issues. And so that really is the focus of our VISTA program. Our members are not for general staffing or administrative support full-time. So you're not going to hire a VISTA member to be the front desk person or to run copies all day long. These really are to be building capacity and working on projects. Our VISTA members do not hold a supervisory role, and so they are not to be supervisors for other staff or students. And we do not allow our members to provide direct service. And so when I say direct service, what I'm talking about is if we have a tutoring and mentoring program, our VISTA members do not sit shoulder to shoulder with the child and work with them on reading or math and kind of track their progress. That's not their role. So our VISTA members can work in tutoring and mentoring, but they would find a volunteer to sit shoulder to shoulder with that child. They would develop curriculum. They could write grants. They could do fundraising around that tutoring and mentoring program. So again, that capacity building aspect or kind of the behind the scenes aspect of the program. The purpose of VISTA is really to bring resources into a community or a organization for a limited period of time, and then remove that VISTA resource, but have what they were working on continue without that VISTA member physically being there. And so that's really kind of how the program is designed. So it's not a long-term solution. It really is to have them come in, build up capacity, make it sustainable, and then be able to walk away from that organization and be able to keep going with what they were doing. In addition to direct service, a few things to note. We always get the question about, so direct service isn't allowable, but are there aspects of when it might be okay? And so we do have some regulations or some guidance around that. So we have 3 E's of service, and yes, that's E's as an elephant. So there are 3 E's as it relates to direct service, and that includes education, emergency, and if everyone is doing it. I know that makes me chuckle, but that's what it is. So for education, basically direct service is okay if it's for an educational purpose. And what that means is to give the member expertise to see how the program can be improved, sustained, or basically just be able to do it, to be able to promote it, get volunteers in. So it's part of their kind of orientation and onboarding process. I'm a big believer in you can't promote something if you don't know what it takes to actually do it. And so for educational purposes, that is definitely part of their onboarding process. That is fine. If you're training new volunteers on how to do a program with the children and you want the member to actually go through that program as well, that's totally fine. If you're looking at, we come in and like 6 months down the road, that member is still educating themselves on that program that they were 6 months ago, and that's going to be an issue. So it's really just for kind of the beginning onboarding process is under education. In an emergency is the second one, and that's basically if for instance, I'm going with the tutoring mentoring here as my examples today, but if the kids show up for a program and the volunteers that they had set up to show up don't show up, and so basically there's a classroom full of kids that are jumping around waiting for volunteers, our VISTA member can step in an emergency situation and be able to kind of cover that class. When the absence of the volunteers becomes habitual, or it's every Thursday they seem to be stepping in, that's no longer an emergency. That becomes part of their daily work, and so that's when it's not allowed. But in an emergency, if there's, here and there they need to step in, that is allowable. And then the third one is if everyone is doing it, and really that is if it's a standard expectation for being part of a particular office environment. So basically an example of this is if you have a front desk receptionist and when she goes to lunch, it rotates amongst the office, you know, every day someone else covers the phones for that hour, you can put that VISTA member into that rotation. Cannot be their permanent position, but you can put them into that rotation. Another one is if everyone takes a role like cleaning out the refrigerator for a month, VISTA members obviously should be able to be part of that if everyone is part of that kind of office environment type activity. So hopefully that makes sense as to when those direct services are okay. In addition to that one that's not noted, but is really the national service, the days of service, I'm sorry. So like MLK Day, 9/11, those types of days that when we do big service projects, trash pickups, food preparation programs and things like that, VISTA members can obviously participate in those without saying, oh my gosh, they're doing direct service. So those are a couple to note there. Any questions or anything to add? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Katie, what?
No, I was just saying I was moving over to the next slide then.
All right.
On your other slides.
Absolutely. So continuing on with the rules and regulations. So we talk about some prohibited activities and what's allowed, what's not allowed. But some of the changes that we've seen in VISTA over the course of the years is that educational coursework is allowed. So that is allowable. It's okay as long as it does not interfere with their work at their project site. So as long as they're taking course load that is not interfering with their work for your organization, that is fine. We do encourage night and evening classes or online classes work out the best. And we do not encourage full-time course loads because that never, ever works. So that's something to think about. They do need to let you know if they're taking a class, and so you just need to be able to note that if they are taking classes outside of their VISTA service. The second one on here is actually brand new to us. Actually not brand new, but it just started last May. And so outside employment is available. There is, basically it's on our campus, our vistacampus.gov. There's resources out there for outside employment policy. I'm sorry, it says see additional handout, but it's actually on the website now. And so outside employment needs to be part-time. It needs to be legal part-time employment. I know I chuckle at that one, but I was like, yeah, that's what we included. It should not conflict with the service hours of the program. It cannot violate any applicable federal, state, or local laws, and it should not conflict with the AmeriCorps VISTA program requirements and policies. In addition to this, outside employment cannot be at their service site. So for colleges and universities, this is something that can be tricky because you're huge. And so there might be an opportunity for a member to take tickets at the stadium, the basketball stadium or whatever on the weekends, but because it's under the university, that's not allowed. And so outside employment is allowed, but it has to be not with their service site. And of course, the other things that we talked about there. So something to think about. Working outside of the state is not allowed without prior approval. So this refers to like alternative spring breaks and things like that. So if a member is traveling for whatever reason, alternative spring breaks will not be approved. That's not something that we see as building capacity for the VISTA members. But if they are going on a trip or something like that, if they're going in their official VISTA capacity, that needs to be discussed with our office because funding is specifically for the state of Iowa. And if they go outside of the state of Iowa, that is where we need to seek approval beyond that. So those are a few things to think about as you're kind of building out your VISTA service.
And Jancy, just a couple of things on that. So that doesn't mean they have to get approval to go on vacation outside of the state. We don't care. We don't want to know. That comes up every year with at least one member. For alternative breaks trips, we have had members who choose to go on those with some of their vacation time. I think as long as it's clear to them that that is not something they're expected or have to do, and clear to them that they're not then in their official VISTA role and therefore may not be covered for certain things, workers' comp, that kind of thing, just understanding that it can be something. We've had members choose to really want to be a part of trips and take vacation time to do that, but it can't be a part of their official VISTA role. The things we have had approved for out-of-state work have really been sort of cross-border partnerships. So an Indian reservation just across the border, or in a place like Dubuque where Wisconsin is right there and maybe there's a partner that's just across the river that they have a partnership with and want to. Those are the types of things that we have put through the system and gotten approval for.
Clear as mud, right? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Some key prohibited activities. So, of course, we're the federal government and we have prohibited activities for our members. The big two that we talk about really are no religious instruction. That includes worship services, proselytization, or other religious activities as part of their VISTA service. And so while the corporation acknowledges that religious activities play a positive role in healthy communities, and that religion is a defining characteristic of many of our community organizations, both faith-based and secular, and that religious beliefs and actions are central to many of our AmeriCorps VISTA members' lives. It is important that our AmeriCorps VISTA programs and our members do not endorse or appear to endorse or promote a specific religion or religious beliefs. And so that is why it is not part of their VISTA service. This does not mean that they cannot teach Sunday school on Sundays. It's just as part of their service, they're covered under the Hatch Act, which is where this comes into play. And so it's the same for federal employees. A lot of times it's the same for staff at organizations. It's just making sure that they're not doing that during their service activities. And the second is political activities. I foresee this being a big issue this year, this fall especially. And so political activities are really categorized as engaging in electoral activities, engaging in lobbying, or participating in demonstrations. The electoral activities, including voter registration drives or driving people to polls, those are prohibited activities. So really it goes back to we can't be looking like we're playing favorites to one political aspect or another. In addition with lobbying, it goes into, we can educate our legislators, or our influentials, as I call them, all day long. But it's when we're crossing the line that, oh, we want you to pass House Bill 5220 or whatever, to be able to provide funding for this. That's where we cross the line. So it's not that our members cannot speak to legislators and not talk to them about their service or about their work at your organization. It's just saying that they cannot be lobbying for a political aspect of funding and things like that. So hopefully this makes sense. I foresee this, a lot of people asking questions, especially this fall as we move into the election, but something to just be mindful of as we go through that. So any questions on those or anything to add? Okay.
It looks like
All right.
we have this last slide here, Jancy.
Okay. One thing that I did not talk about, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back for just a second, is teleworking. It's on the, I forgot to add it to the previous slide. I'm sorry, Katie. But it is an allowable activity. So teleservice is what we call it, or working from home. This is a question that comes up a lot of times for our members. And basically, if your organization allows for your members or your staff or your regular volunteers to work from home, and you have policies and procedures around that, there is an opportunity for our members to do that. Basically, if it's not applicable to your normal staff on a regular basis, then it's not applicable to the VISTA members. That kind of clears that up. But this is really for kind of that regular reoccurring access, or not reoccurring access, but reoccurring requests for, so like every Friday, I'm gonna work from home type thing. First of all, their VAD, or their volunteer assignment description, has to allow for it. So if they're doing research or things like that, it's more conducive. It cannot exceed 2 days per pay period, so basically 1 day per week. And basically they have to be on board for at least 3 months before that is allowable. and you have to be able to approve it. So if you don't think they're capable of working from home, it's not allowable. For episodic telework agreements or for work from home agreements, like we're going to get 14 inches of snow tomorrow, everybody take your computer home. That does not need to go through an official approval process, but if it's every Friday or something like that, it does. We do have documentation that needs to be completed. Because a member is covered under workman's comp and then therefore their home becomes their service site, there has to be like a survey that they fill out to make sure that they're assessing the safety of their work environment and things like that. So if you do have that request come through, please let us know. And that is something that is possible that I wanted to discuss. So sorry, Katie. Now we can go on to VISTA benefits. So any questions about that? Okay. All right. So quickly, VISTA benefits. Our members do have, I think, a plethora of benefits, really, but some of them disagree with me. So all of our VISTA benefits are listed on the vistacampus.gov. And if you go to in-service benefits, they are all listed out there. And so members can get a little bit more information about these. The living allowance, so our members receive a living allowance on a bi-weekly basis. It's a direct deposit into an account that they have set up. It's $11,676 for their full 12 months. That comes out to about $31.99 per day. I know, whopping amount that they all get paid. You take that times 14, because every pay period is 14 days in length. Our members by federal regulation work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we take the times 14. In actuality, they work the sponsoring organization's operating hours. So, but that's how we do it. And that comes out to about $447 every 2 weeks that they get, and that's prior to any deductions that they might have taken. So just an idea of how much they're making. In addition to the living allowance, our members do have an end of service benefit that they can receive, and that is the education award or the cash stipend. The education award currently is $5,775. That can be used to either pay back qualified student loans or continuing their education at a qualified institution of higher ed. In lieu of that, if they choose not to take the education award, they can receive a cash stipend, which is currently $1,500. Both of these come at the end of their term of service, having successfully completed their VISTA term. So those are options available to them. The member does make the selection in their My AmeriCorps account. If they are unsure of what they want, we encourage them to take the education award, just because in their 10th month of service, they can change from the education award to the cash stipend if they want to. However, if they choose the stipend, the cash stipend right off the bat, they cannot change their selection. So that is something to be mindful of there. In addition to that, our members also do receive a health benefit program. Just to be clear that under the Affordable Care Act, all Americans, including VISTAs, are required to have health insurance. And so our members / candidates are expected to have health insurance when they become an AmeriCorps VISTA member, unless for any reason they are exempt from this requirement of the ACA. So the health benefit plan is kind of in addition to any insurance that they might have, or if there's an exemption, it's to kind of help offset some costs. VISTA has never provided insurance. They've always provided a health benefit plan, but the Affordable Care Act kind of made us redo how we provided that. And so those are all managed through our international medical group. And again, out on the VISTA campus, it gives much more information regarding the AmeriCorps healthcare allowance or the AmeriCorps VISTA health benefit plan. So it really just depends on if they come to us with insurance, they have one option. If they come to us without insurance and they are exempt from the requirement, there is an additional option for that as well. So that is at no cost to them. It's just an additional benefit that they receive. In addition to the things listed, we also provide a life insurance option for them. This does, they can waive this if they choose to, but this is a cost to them. It's $2.07 per pay period. And so it's an option. It's about $19,000 of life insurance coverage for anyone under the age of 60. So that's an option for them, but they can waive it as well. For our members with children, we do provide a child care benefit. It's about $400 per child if the child is under 13 years of age. And so that's an additional benefit that they can also receive if they do have kids. As well as we also provide loan forbearance. It's not an automatic, I want to say we don't provide. Loan forbearance or loan deferment is an option available to members. Depending on what they select for their end of service benefit, deciphering what type of loan they have, there are some options out there for loan forbearance or loan deferment. And so if a member selects the education award and they have a qualified student loan that they want to not pay while they're in service, they can apply for loan forbearance for national service. Again, we are not the loan holders, so we can not actually give loan forbearance, but we can work with their loan holders to allow that. So a lot of times our members are like, well, this is a benefit of service, it should be automatic, and it's not because we don't hold their loan, so that's up to the loan holder to do. Again, everything's out on the VISTA campus for more information. We also provide training, which includes a pre-service orientation. You guys do an on-site orientation. Katie and Emily provide some orientation throughout the course of their service, which I'm sure she'll talk about in a little bit. So there's lots of training and opportunities out there. There's also a VISTA blend opportunity for training, which is through the campus. It's a coursework that they go through for either volunteer management or fund development. Ideally, you can get college credit for it, but I hear in the Midwest, it's a little hard to get college credit for those classes. But they're great courses if the members are interested. And there's also regular trainings that they have on a national scale that our members can log into. So those are opportunities for them. And then finally, our members do time off. So they get 10 vacation or personal days as well as 10 sick days. So a total of 20 days or 4 weeks that they can have off in their year of service, which I don't think is too bad. And basically that needs to be tracked and recorded. In addition to that, there is also emergency leave and any holiday schedules that you guys have. If you guys provide flex time or comp time, that's up to you and your site for that. But we do allow for them to have 20 days off during their term of service. So those are kind of the benefits at a glance. Katie, Emily, anything to add?
The only thing I would say quickly on the time off is that that's not information we collect or approve or do anything with. That's something you handle at your site level. And the only time you would need to talk to us about it is if they're looking to go over those 20 days. If they need to go over those 20 days for an emergency, we can approve an additional 5 days. If they just want extra time off, that's really up to you if you think that they've earned it through comp time, that kind of thing. And again, you don't have to talk to us about those things unless you want to. That's really up to your discretion.
To monitor this, we have members who seem to, not everybody, but every once in a while I have a member who's 3 months in and has used all of their time off, and they still have quite a ways to go through their service term. So it's something to definitely monitor. As I said earlier, a lot of times members have never had a professional career, and so they don't understand that once their time is gone, it's gone. And so definitely something to make sure that you talk to them about, and they have to seek approval through your process. They can't just be gone for 5 days and come back and be like, oh, I used some vacation time. They have to go through your regular approval process. So this is something that can get away from our members quickly. And I wanted to make sure that we highlighted it a little bit. So any questions about that stuff?
Well, and I'll just say that you do not, when they request vacation days, you do not have to approve them. If you're requesting a day, that is a day you really need them to be in the office. Then again, that's why there's an approval process, and you can definitely say no. For sick leave, again, just make sure you're clear to them about your expectations, how you want them to let you know when they're sick, by what time. What's your campus policy about when a doctor's note is needed? Again, you just need to follow your own employee policies that you have, and just make sure those are clear to the VISTA member from the beginning. And then if they're violating those policies, that's when you want to bring us in so that we can make sure we're documenting that they're not meeting expectations and going through the proper procedures with that.
Yes, thank you, Emily. And that is something for all of, not only just for time off, but also for holiday time, time and attendance, social media usage. That is all your own personal policies for those things. So make sure that they know what those are. That might be for staff, you might have volunteer policies, whatever, wherever you want the VISTA members to fall under. Make sure those are set up and they know what those are. You know, how long their lunch break is, how many breaks they get during the day, those types of things. So Emily and Katie will not be monitoring that. That's something that you guys will kind of take charge of and be able to oversee. So any questions about benefits or kind of using your own, we kind of dived into the using your own personnel policies for oversight, but any questions?
Can you talk a little bit, the child care benefit you said is $400. I have a candidate that's potentially interested that has children.
Okay.
So can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So the child care benefit is for any child under 13 years of age. So they have to have a child under 13 years of age. Sorry, I'm trying to turn to my cheat sheet really quick. And they have to be income eligible. So basically it can't be my spouse makes $100,000 a year and I'm looking for this. It's a subsidy that they are provided. It's paid directly to the child care provider. It's not paid to them. So there's a nice packet of paperwork that they have to fill out to go through that.
Okay.
And the benefit provides up to $400 per child per month. And AmeriCorps childcare.com. So again, AmeriCorps with an S, childcare.com is the website and our provider for that. It is, the child care provider must be licensed in the state or a family member of the VISTA. So there is some eligibility requirements and things like that, but yes, that is an option to them. If they are currently receiving a subsidy through the state for childcare, they cannot also in addition receive this. It's one or the other. But yes, that is an option. So that's some of the basics. Does that help, Heidi?
That does. It helps a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about what we've talked about today, this morning? Katie, Emily, anything you want to add or anything else you want me to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good with the VISTA benefits and stuff. If you're needing to get on to another meeting or anything, Jancy, you're definitely welcome to do that, but you're also welcome to stay on if you'd like.
I have another training at 11 that I haven't quite got the PowerPoint tweaked for, so nothing like last minute doing that stuff. But thank you all. If you do need anything, Emily and Katie are fantastic resources. You can always contact our office if you need anything. We're located in Des Moines. And Katie and Emily both have my contact information that I'm sure they will share with you if you don't already have it. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you today. Good luck with the new VISTAs. And if you do have any questions, I'm a big believer in sometimes it's easier to get the answers ahead of time. This is not those instances where it's I'll just do it and beg for forgiveness later. Please ask if you have questions. Because it can get a little messy if not. But thank you so much for your commitment to national service, and look forward to hearing great things about your VISTA members this coming year. So thank you.
Thank you, Jancy.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, we're going to turn it over to talking a little bit more about specifically our VISTA project and just going through some of the structure and goals for that. You guys already have a pretty good sense of what Iowa Campus Compact is, so I'll skip going through those things specifically. I'll just say that the reason we do VISTA is really to build capacity for campus and community partnerships. So these are our VISTA sites going forward for next year. We have two focus areas here going into the third year of our grant. Those are in education, K-12 and post-secondary success, and economic opportunity, including job training, financial literacy, and housing. We are going into the third year of our grant, and so we have to reapply in the fall for a new grant. So we will at that time be looking at what our focus areas are and how our program might be structured for the next 3 years. And all of our sites will need to complete a full reapplication if they'd like to continue. The idea behind VISTA is that you're building capacity over a 3-year period, and then at the end of that have built at least that capacity you were looking to build in that time frame. So we can continue to support sites beyond a 3-year cycle, but we have to be building new and different capacity and really looking at how we're moving things forward in a different way, because they really, again, as Jancy mentioned, don't want to just be supplanting staff and supporting ongoing programming and operations. So that'll be something to think about as we go into the fall, and we'll share more information about how we're going to do that. I'm not sure at this point if we're going to do an RFP or just work with interested sites. We're really looking at some different ways of making that work best depending on what we're planning to do. So again, thinking about our project, the community need we're trying to meet is really a lack of capacity to meet needs in these areas, with community organizations who need more volunteers, more resources, that kind of thing. Also a lack of capacity on both sides of the equation to engage in strong partnerships. So that's why some of our members serve on campuses and some serve in community organizations, because we find that partnerships are not successful when either side lacks the capacity to really be a strong partner. So again, we're really focused on partnerships and those partnerships resulting in new capacity to meet specific community needs. So just a little bit about our program. The first year we had any VISTA support was in 2003. We're actually in 2016 going to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of us having an actual VISTA project. So for those first 3 years, we just had a VISTA supporting the work of Campus Compact. So 2006 is when that expanded to the larger program we have now. So one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later and with you heading into the fall is how we plan to celebrate that a little bit in 2006. We've had 134 total members. And as I mentioned, we're going into the 3rd year of this particular grant cycle. And on your screen, you'll also see some of our outcomes just for this year alone. Our VISTAs really are able to do a lot, especially in the areas of volunteer recruitment and management, generating cash and in-kind resources, and then looking specifically at some of the populations that we're serving. So the specific program measures we're looking at, and these are different site to site, but we're looking at improved academic performance, engagement, students entering post-secondary opportunities and completing those, improved financial literacy, people being placed in jobs, and people being placed in housing. So as you know, with each site, we do have to get down to that level of trying to measure a community outcome. That doesn't mean that we're getting to that community outcome necessarily every year. Your outcome might be that students enter post-secondary education. Well, if you're working with middle school students, we're obviously not going to know the result of that outcome for quite a while. Even for job placement, you can work with someone for years before they're able to achieve that full-time position that they're seeking. So the outcomes are not meant to be something you have to necessarily report the end game on each year, but we have to show progress, we have to show what we're working towards, and we have to show how we plan to be able to measure that. So that's something that all sites need to be thinking about and working towards, and really communicating with their VISTA members. So we already talked to some about the mission of VISTA specifically, the focus really being on capacity building and on capacity building that's specific to issues related to poverty. Those are some of the things that kind of set VISTA apart from some other AmeriCorps programs. Other AmeriCorps programs do focus on capacity building. Our AmeriCorps program focuses on capacity building, so that's not necessarily unique, but the focus on moving people out of poverty is. Other AmeriCorps programs can have a broader focus on different issues such as the environment and that kind of thing. So those are some of the core principles of what VISTA is trying to do. You want to show the video?
No, I was just going to skip the video.
Okay. We won't make you watch the video right now. This is just a little bit of background on the program, and we'll send you the PowerPoint slides. So if you want that little bit more background, it's definitely an inspirational video.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Katie just to talk a little bit more about what we know about who VISTAs are and what they do.
So we touched base with this a little bit during the recruiting video, but I wanted to touch base again because not everyone was part of that recruitment back in January, I think. So just a reminder that VISTAs have to be at least 18 years old. They need to be U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents. They have to pass the background checks and their criminal history. And then they also have to meet the skills and the ability requirements that the organization wants. You can't just have anybody come into the program. They have to serve full-time and for a 1-year commitment. VISTAs on a national level are traditionally more leaning towards female. We can see that in a lot of other civic engagement areas, as Heidi and Ashley probably know. They're usually younger and more of a recent grad or looking to develop their careers. 62% are local recruits, and the other 38% are national recruits that are recruited from the My AmeriCorps portal. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at individuals. But as a VISTA goes through the Campus Compact program, they're also asked about why they chose to be part of the program specifically. And for influential factors, number one was they wanted to reduce social and economic inequality. But number two, and that was also pretty high, is they want to develop their skills that they think will be useful for future jobs or even for going back to school. They were also asked, just different themes of why they wanted to continue. And for Campus Compact, the highest theme is they want to explore what jobs would look like in the higher education field. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for individuals and you're looking for different professional development or training to give to your VISTA. They're really there to explore different career fields.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, that can be a selling point in the interview process and also something to think about throughout their year, how you can give them opportunities. You don't have to have professional development dollars to really make it a strong experience for VISTAs. Again, if they're interested in higher ed or nonprofit careers, are there leaders on your campus and in the community that you might be able to help them arrange to job shadow or meet with or develop a mentorship relationship with? Those kinds of things can be really, really valuable. And again, they're not the expense of sending someone to a conference.
So I personally am a VISTA leader. And in order to have a VISTA leader, a VISTA project has to have at least 6 VISTAs. And the VISTA leader is there to support the VISTAs through professional development or helping with their data collection, analyzing that data, and just helping them throughout the year, especially since the VISTA leader has already gone through a year of national service, and so they can offer support that way. I just put this in there so you guys knew who I was, but your VISTA leader for next year, who will start August 1st, is going to be Allie Zool. So there's her picture, and you'll be communicating with her next year.
Yeah, and Allie's a Central College grad who is a part of our Civic Ambassadors Network and served as a VISTA member with Outreach Inc. So she has familiarity with our programs, but also with some other nonprofit settings, which I think will be great. And just to note about our VISTA leaders, I think ours typically take on a lot more than some VISTA leaders with some other programs. I really need that capacity support, and we've been able to recruit really high quality VISTA leaders. So you will hear from our VISTA leader a lot throughout the year, and they will be the main contact for the program. I am always available for any conversations you might want to have at a different level for whatever reason. But the VISTA leader is who you and VISTA will likely hear from the most. And they really do a lot to support our program and to make it successful.
Jancy already talked about the member benefits, so this is just in there as a reminder that when you are talking to those VISTA members about their benefits, $11,600 can be, just a number that's thrown out, but just to consider, that's about $896 a month, and that's before taxes are even taken out. So just keep that in mind. This is other expenses or other benefits she didn't mention earlier was that VISTAs do get help with moving and relocation. That can definitely be helpful when you're trying to convince someone to move across the country to come become your VISTA. So a VISTA's responsibility is really to engage in those capacity building activities, but they also want to make your projects sustainable and continue after they are done. And so they're always looking for ways that they can really start this project, build the organization, and then move away. So it'll be done when they're there, when they're completing. But they're also just following the activities that you have laid out in your VAD that you want them to do. So that sort of, it's not much more to add.
Well, I would just add that it is good practice to sit down with your VISTA member weekly, maybe every other week, kind of depending on what you find is a rhythm that works for you, but really to come back to that VAD frequently, check in with them on it at the beginning of the term, really talk through it with them so they're understanding what needs to be accomplished over the course of the year. And Katie will talk a little bit more about reporting, but a part of that conversation needs to be, here are the outcomes we said we were going to get to, and here's how I was thinking we would measure those. Here's where you find that information. Here's how you gather that information. Here's how I'll work with you on that. Our VISTA members tend to have a lot of confusion about that side of things, and we're finding that supervisors aren't necessarily walking through that with them. And we do collect that information directly from the VISTA, not from you, so it's important that they understand what they're supposed to be reporting and how they get it.
Any questions about that section?
I just have a question. Maybe you guys have suggestions on how do I take this fresh out of college or fresh to higher education person and get them up to speed before the students come back on the culture of higher ed, what my last VISTA worked on, and how to kind of continue and develop that work. Like right now I'm currently working on, like, Liz is writing a letter on where she left off and leaving check sheets on where she's left off and advice on where to build on her work. Is that what you see other sites doing, or are they doing other things? I just want to make sure I need to onboard them as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah. I would
so
really look at how you can build a strong, like, 3-week orientation phase.
Okay.
And yes, as much as your last VISTA can leave behind, making clear where files are, what are the things that went well for them and what didn't, putting as much in writing as possible and organizing it as clearly as possible will definitely help your VISTA get started. But then really think about, what do they need to know in those 3 weeks, making clear to them what you want them to know at the end of those 3 weeks, and then figuring out how that gets delivered. So that doesn't mean that you're sitting with them 24/7 for 3 weeks going through all the things you want them to know. For instance, if you want them to understand more about higher ed culture, are there some things they can read? Are there other places where they can really research that kind of thing? So you can put some of that back on them, give them reading materials, that kind of thing. But I think in that case, it needs to be clear to them why and what you're hoping they get out of that. And then there needs to be regular checkpoints where you're seeing what questions they might have had about what they've been reading, what they've been able to find, that kind of thing. But that's how I would structure it, is really, thinking about it as a 3-week time frame that they're really spending getting up to speed and hopefully starting to do some things during that time, but really having that orientation period so that they have that opportunity, and that you're checking in with them more frequently, certainly during that time. Who else can they meet with? Can you set up a series of meetings so that they're talking to students, to other folks on campus, to the community organizations they're going to be working with? Just really laying out that 3-week time period so that they feel more prepared to hit the ground running and have a sense of what kind of that onboarding time is for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So when you have a VISTA, like Jancy said earlier, it's very important to focus on the capacity building, just tasks and activities that really expand your project. So not focusing too much on direct service. She did give those examples of the 3 times you can: emergency, everybody, and educational, but just keep that in mind that you really need to focus on capacity building activities. A VISTA is assigned a VISTA assignment description. you both have filled out your VISTA's assignment description, so you kind of know, but it just lists the main goals and then what their activities will be throughout the year. When a VISTA goes to PSO, they will have that with them and they will study it and they will talk about it with their other VISTAs and have outlines and plans for the year. So it's really important to put as much information in there as you can. It is a fluid document for those activities, so things are going to change. You can't predict an entire year worth of work for one person, but just keep that in mind to definitely go back and look at what you've put down. 3 months after your VISTA started, are some of these things not going to be able to happen? Should they be adjusted? Is the VISTA moving too quickly through them that maybe you need to add other things, or they're not going to finish them? So VISTA assignment descriptions are very important, the VADs, because it sets out what the VISTA is going to do for the year.
A couple things we've run into with that. So one is that it is emphasized a lot at their pre-service orientation. So we have some members who come out of that believing that they can only do things that are on their VAD. Some get sort of a black and white sense of it. We try to counter that a little at our orientation, because while the VAD should be the primary focus of their work, there may be other things that they're doing that come up or here and there, that kind of thing, sort of those other duties as assigned, and that is fine. So we'll try to emphasize that with them, but you may want to make a part of your orientation just that you sort of debrief the pre-service orientation with them. What did they learn there, and what questions do they have for you as a result of that? The other thing with the VAD is that we do upload this into the system, so it's an official document. Therefore, if major changes are needed during the year, we do have to submit those for approval. So if you're just changing an activity here or there in terms of how those goals are being accomplished, that's fine. We don't need to make an official change there. If something major is changing, all the activities are changing. Some of the goals aren't going to be able to be met, that kind of thing, that we do need to submit a new VAD and get approval for. So just make sure you're checking in on that and communicating with us.
Any questions on the VAD? Okay. As your VISTA is serving throughout the year, they have to do some reporting, and all that information, the report gets sent to us, and then we pass it on to the national level. But one way that they do this is their monthly progress report. So this is a Google spreadsheet that they have access to, and they have to turn it in at the first Friday of every month. And then afterwards, the VISTA leader will go over it with them to make sure that they're filling in things correctly. It's definitely a learning curve at the first couple months that they're filling it in, because there's a lot of information. If you go back to the PowerPoint, I did put links to templates. So each VISTA it's personalized. So it has their goals and they try to fill them in. At the end of each quarter, they also have a report. This is more of a reflection step though. It doesn't have any numbers that they need to report, but they need to talk about how they've grown and what projects they've been working on. And we also read through that, and then we talk to them about that. For the monthly progress report, we really encourage the supervisors to be looking at that with them each month, to be looking over it to see how they're coming along on their goals, if they're on progress, if they're filling it in incorrectly. So that's something you will have access to that. Once I give it to the VISTAs, I will also give it to the supervisors. So just look through it, make sure everything's okay. For the supervisor role, yeah, just help them understand their goals. Tell them how they're going to measure it. If you have a goal for mentoring 150 students, you might need to explain what the mentoring program looks like so that they understand these students can count, but maybe these students don't count. If you do see any changes with goals, just let us know and we can get fixing those right away. Anything you want to add, reporting?
Nope.
No, we try to keep it as smooth as possible. So.
Yeah, the main thing is your VISTA fills this out, but you have access to it. Please look at it. When you, at least one of those, one time a month when you sit down with them, look at it, see what they're reporting, ask them questions about it, make sure you're on the same page. We have just run into so many members where halfway through the year, they're not reporting on the thing their supervisor thought they would be reporting on, or they don't know what they should be putting for a specific area, so they're just putting nothing and not asking their supervisor about it. I don't know why they don't just ask more questions if they have questions, but they don't. So it's important that you bring it up and that you're actually looking at this document. They also have, there's a couple of narrative areas where they can kind of say how things are going. Sometimes they're more honest in those areas than they are face-to-face. So it's also a good place to just like see how they're doing and then maybe ask them questions about that.
So the next section, I just want to talk about how we support the VISTAs and how the communication chain goes. So we do have a lot of like social media and Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. And we even have a VISTA Facebook page. I share a lot of things with the VISTAs there, but definitely not on a serious, important matters type thing. It's just a place for them to talk with each other. But we do have an internal VISTA Google site that we upload all the resources that they may need, different articles that they can read, that they have access to. But as a VISTA leader, the VISTA leader will call them on a monthly basis and have a chat with them, just talk about things they put on their report, but also just how they're going and how they feel their project is moving along for the year. There's also weekly emails that the VISTAs will receive with updates and things they need to complete and different resources, job opportunities, that sort of thing. And then just throughout the year, different professional development webinars will be made available to your VISTAs. So that's the basic communication we have with them. Anything you want to add? Okay. We talked about, Jancy stopped in earlier at the beginning, but she's definitely just at the CNCS state office level. So she's right above us. If you know, yeah, she just monitors all the VISTA programs in Iowa, and we're underneath her. So if you have questions, you can come to us first, and then we can pass them up to Jancy. If a VISTA member, so when a VISTA member has an issue or they're just excited about something, they should definitely speak with the supervisor first. That should be their first level of information, first level of communication. If they feel like they can't go to the supervisor, we encourage them to come to the VISTA leader. If they don't even want to come to the VISTA leader, then it goes to Emily for that sort of communication. And then we move it on up the chain to the state office if it needs. If there's a problem that really hasn't been resolved, Jancy might take it all the way to the VISTA headquarters, but that'd be pretty intense.
Yeah, and just kind of how we view this, so our VISTA leader will talk to your VISTA member monthly, just kind of a check-in phone call. If they're having issues with their relationship with you as their supervisor, how we typically handle that is if they bring it up with the VISTA and just more want to vent, that kind of thing, and get advice, that's fine, and that usually stays between the VISTA leader and the VISTA member. And that's made clear to them. You know, you can have a confidential conversation with the VISTA leader about the challenges you're experiencing, and that's not going to be necessarily reported to me or reported back to your site supervisor. If it's something where the policies and programs are being violated, though, or that kind of thing, then I do ask the VISTA leader to share with me, obviously. Then we might bring you in, kind of depending on the situation. And she'll definitely tell the VISTA leader that that's our plan, that we're going to open up the lines of communication. We'll also ask them if they want us to intervene in some way. We will always point them back to talking to you. So any problem they're bringing to us, if they're wanting us to intervene, our first question will be whether they brought it up with you. If they haven't done that at all, we're going to encourage them to do that first. And we're going to ask them to do that first before we are going to take any steps. If they're doing that and they're still feeling like it's unresolved and they need some assistance, that's where we might come in. But of course, we'd have a conversation with you first and then possibly have a group conversation, just kind of see depending on the situation. But that's kind of where that stands. On your end, if there's some issue with the VISTA member, please talk to us early and often. That could be me, that can be Katie, whatever works for you. But even if it's not rising to the level of, you know, wanting to, you know, document something or that kind of thing, if you're having concerns early on that they're not meeting your expectations, I would just encourage you to talk to us early on. We want to be as involved as possible. If your VISTA member leaves, you're not going to get another one. So we want to make it work, and we want to be a part of that. The other thing is that they're not your employee. They're not our employee. They're employees of the federal government. So you can't fire them. I can't fire them. We have a process we have to go through with the state office and with the federal government if you are in a position where they need to be let go. So we have to be brought into that conversation. Now, if something happens, we've had VISTA members violate policies. We've had illegal acts take place. You are definitely within your rights to send them home if something is going on where they cannot be in the work environment with you. You can go ahead and do that and then contact us right away. If you feel like it's not safe or it's a clear violation of the policies of your office, we had a VISTA member who lived in the dorms and was caught smoking pot in the dorms. So obviously they let him know he was going to have to leave the dorms and then communicated it with us right away the next morning. We just have to be in that communication loop. So please keep that in mind. And you're not bothering us. It's never bothering us. Please, we want to know.
Yeah, we'd like to resolve the issues before they become issues. Throughout the year, there'll definitely be some required meetings for site supervisors. This is one of them, the site supervisor orientation. So good job, Ashley and Heidi. But we have them at different times of the year, so we'll be okay there. Each year, we try to go to every site as well, just to see where the VISTA is working, check in with them, see what kind of projects they're doing, just see how the environment looks, and to get that in-person connection, because we don't get to see the VISTAs more than their orientation that they'll have at the beginning of the year. And then we also will do one-on-one check-ins just over the phone, talking about, the VISTA goals and how the VISTA is doing, work environment, how you think it's going, that sort of thing. VISTA members have a lot more required meetings. So that would be the orientation at the beginning of the semester, the beginning of the year. Meeting with their direct supervisor weekly is highly encouraged. Then the monthly one-on-ones with the VISTA leader, professional development opportunities. So they have a little bit more, but we just want them to be in constant communication with us and with you.
Do you want to talk about specifically the plans for the orientation?
We can.
Or do you have that on?
I have it towards the end. We'll do
Okay.
that. So project management and member development is the next section. So as a supervisor, really, we are expecting you to orientate your VISTA to your site. So making sure they understand what's expected of them, work policies, that sort of thing. Participate in the supervisor meetings, the site visits. So when we come to visit, we hope that we can talk with you as well, not just the VISTA member. Dedicate time to your VISTA each week, or bi-weekly if you can't meet each week. But we prefer each week to just set aside time and really meet with your VISTA and talk about their work. Support the monthly and quarterly reports that the VISTAs have to do. Just make sure you're looking at them and making sure they're doing it correctly. And then monitor their attendance and leave. You don't have to report it to us, but just make sure they're keeping within their time frame of their 10 days and 10 sick days, so they're not gone for 3 months and we don't know about it. So, and just really focus on coaching them and mentoring them through this process. Most of them, this is their first full-time employment opportunity, and so they're just getting into this world of full-time employment, really.
Yeah, and I would think about, especially if they're moving to your community for the position, how can you help just orient them to the community and help them get involved and just kind of think a little bit about their out-of-work life too. I know when I was a VISTA in San Antonio, I moved there for that, and our VISTA supervisor was really great, especially at the beginning, about sending us ideas for things to do on the weekend, especially free things, festivals, stuff like that, talking to us about great places to go, that kind of thing, and just helping us get acclimated to that community as well, so that we were having fun and wanting to stay, because again, that's in your best interest if they are enjoying just their life in that year as much as possible.
Jancy already mentioned that, the prohibited activities, so we really don't have to go into that, but just a reminder that if you feel there is a problem or your VISTA member is participating in activities that don't follow the VISTA guidelines, talk to us early. We can talk to the VISTA or figure out how to address that problem. Same with if a VISTA member feels like you are asking them to do things they're uncomfortable with or that are direct service, they're going to come to us too. And so we may talk to you about that. Just different contacts and resources that your VISTA will have. VISTA Campus is where we always direct VISTAs, or at least I do, because it has everything. It has trainings, it has benefits, it has everything that they'll need essentially for how to be a VISTA, even the terms and conditions in their handbook. So if you ever want to go and look through it, you're definitely welcome. You don't have to have an account or anything. It's just vistacampus.gov. So that's pretty simple that way. They also have the VISTA member support unit, which is a hotline. If we don't know how to answer anything, we'll definitely send the VISTA that direction, and they can help with health benefits or the child care support, that sort of thing that I might not know about. So. I put in here about helping your VISTA. So that's just remembering that your VISTA is new to your community usually, and you can always support your VISTA in a variety of ways. Even if you can't support them with housing, which we strongly encourage, you can always think about giving gift cards or giving them promotional items, like if you're at an organization, different t-shirts and that sort of thing, health insurance, encouraging them to do more trainings, that sort of thing. Just remember to be fair with your VISTAs if you have more than one. It's extremely important. Just a second. Just keep in mind to know what your VISTA status is for securing housing, especially those that are moving. Just keep in mind that they might not know how to find cheap housing, and having a list or thinking about possible leads can really help someone when they're settling in. Since we've lost everyone, we can probably skip this last exercise, but we were just going to ask everyone to think about the future after their VISTA year and think about what they want that to look like. So thank you for stopping by. A few dates to keep in mind is June 20th is when June VISTA start. July 26th is when July VISTA start. In fall, we'll have new site applications. Emily kind of talked about that for our next 3-year cycle. But I also wanted to talk about in August, I didn't have it marked here, but we will be having the VISTA orientation. So August 16th and August 17th, VISTAs will be coming down for 2 half-day trainings. But on the night of the 16th, we want to have a celebration for the 10-year anniversary of our VISTA cohort. But on the 16th and 17th, we're still working out some of the details, but we'd really like VISTA supervisors to come along, and we want to train you side by side with your VISTAs to talk about what the plans are for the year, really build the communication channels between the VISTA member and yourself. So that's in there.
Yep. Yeah, we're hoping that supervisors can attend for that first afternoon of the training. We'll structure activities, so if the VISTA and supervisor can both be there, you can work together. We hope you can be a part of the celebration. And then the next morning will be just the VISTA member. So if you're in town, obviously you can do whatever. If you are traveling with the VISTA, if you want to drive with the VISTA member, you can. Obviously, you don't have to be a part of the next day's training. You can do other things you need to do in Des Moines while you're here and ride back with them. Obviously, that's all up to you. Yeah. Any other questions, Heidi?
I don't have any. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll start promoting your, let me just turn off the recording here.
I think it's under more.